Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast. I'm Ollie Barrett, coming to you live from London, and these are today's headlines. US President Joe Biden accuses Vladimir Putin of committing genocide in Ukraine as Ukraine's army braces for an imminent eastern assault. Finland's Prime Minister says the country will decide whether to apply for NATO membership within weeks, as Moscow warns the Nordic nation accession would not bring stability to Europe. Germany dismisses reports that Berlin is not keen to invite India for the G7 summit coming up this year due to its imports of Russian oil. It's reported a formal invite is expected to be sent to India soon. Several electronics companies, including iPhone and MacBook makers, have halted production in the Chinese cities of Shanghai and Kunshan, adding to supply chain woes under Beijing's strict zero-COVID measures. Britain's annual inflation rate soars to the highest level in 3 decades, at 7%. Amid a rise in energy prices. The US president has escalated his rhetoric against Vladimir Putin. Joe Biden now says that Russian actions in Ukraine amount to genocide.
Yes. I call this genocide because Putin is just trying to wipe out the idea of being Ukraine. And the evidence is mounting. It's different than it was last week. The more evidence is coming out of literally the horrible things that the Russians have done in Ukraine. And we're going to only learn more and more about the devastation. And we'll let the lawyers decide internationally whether or not it qualifies. But it sure seems that way to me. Thank you.
Well, Biden had repeatedly called Russian President Vladimir Putin a war criminal, but this is the first time he's accused Russia of committing genocide. Previously, the US Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor have both used words like atrocities and war crimes to describe the events in Ukraine. Shortly after Joe Biden's remarks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described them as the words of a true leader. But French President Emmanuel Macron has refused to describe Russian actions in Ukraine in the same way. An interviewer on the France 2 broadcaster asked Macron if he would use the term genocide like the US president.
C'est une folie ce qui est en train de se passer.
It's madness what is happening. It's unbelievably brutal. It's the return of war in Europe. But at the same time, I look at things, at the facts. I want to try as much as possible to continue to be able to stop this war and to rebuild peace. So I'm not sure that the escalation of words serves the cause.
Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has slammed Kiev, accusing it of derailing peace talks by staging what he says are fake claims of Russian war crimes. He's also called the situation in the Ukrainian city of Bucha a fake narrative.
Так же, как никто не вспоминает сотни убитых мирных жителей в Афганистане, когда одним ударом уничтожали сотни и больше сотни людей на свадьбах. Тишина. Не было такой тишины, когда устраивали провокации в Сирии, когда изображали применение химического оружия правительством Асада. Потом выяснилось, что это фейк, такой же.
Putin has also called Western economic sanctions a complete failure.
Мы особенно не различаем, где заканчивается Беларусь, где Россия, где Россия и Беларусь. Мы, так же, как ни странно это прозвучит сегодня, я всегда об этом говорил, мы триединый народ, Украина и Беларусь и Россия. То, что происходит на Украине, трагедия, без всякого сомнения, но Александр Григорьевич правильно сказал, выбора не оставили. Просто не было выбора. Вопрос только был во времени, когда начнется. Вот и все.
Ukraine is offering a prisoner swap with Russia. The president has proposed that Russia exchanges Ukrainian captives for an oligarch captured in Ukraine. Ukraine says it has arrested the pro-Russian politician Viktor Medvedchuk, who is seen as President Putin's closest ally in Ukraine. He is the leader of the opposition platform called For Life. He was charged with treason by Ukraine and put under house arrest in Kiev, but escaped soon after the Russian invasion began on February the 24th. He is a wealthy businessman who claims that Putin is the godfather to his daughter. Before the war, he was at times tolerated in Ukraine because he was seen as an important link to the Kremlin, but he was charged with treason back in May 2021.
Що ж, якщо Медведчук сам обрав для себе військову форму, він підпадає під правила воєнного часу. Пропоную Російській Федерації обміняти цього вашого хлопця на наших хлопців і наших дівчат, які зараз в російському полоні. Тож важливо, щоб наші правоохоронні органи і військові також розглянули таку можливість.
Well, France has sent a team of forensic experts to investigate alleged war crimes in Ukraine's Bucha. The team has already started collecting pieces of evidence.
In his first public remarks since Russian soldiers retreated from several Ukrainian cities to refocus their assault on the country's east, Russian President Vladimir Putin said the invasion was going as planned, that peace talks between Moscow and Kiev had hit a dead end, and that the bodies of Ukrainian civilians found in the city of Bucha had been staged. Putin offered no evidence to support this allegation. But while the Russian leader called the piles of corpses in Bucha fake, investigators here were painstakingly combing the scene for the facts. This group from the French Gendarme's Forensic Science Department watched workers in hazmat suits dig earth from a shallow grave, then lift out a heavy mass wrapped in an orange blanket. The burnt body parts inside, allegedly those of a woman and her 2 children, were too charred to tell apart. Here's Ukrainian Prosecutor General Irina Venediktov.
We have now a lot of job, unfortunately, with war crimes against humanity. Today you were witnesses when we digging out the 3 bodies of family. Witnesses told that it was woman and her 2 kids. We don't know who are they. We will identify them by our procedural possibilities and maybe with our French colleagues.
The mayor of Bucha on Tuesday said 403 bodies had been found so far. Russian troops occupied Bucha for several weeks before they withdrew. Satellite imagery appears to show bodies laying in the streets while the town was under Russian control. One of the mass graves was outside this church. Priest Andriy Halavin said that during the Russian occupation in early March, the dead began to accumulate and needed to be buried somewhere.
Animals were running around. You know what could have happened. And when the number of dead people got too high, it was important to bury them. We couldn't get to the cemetery because they were shooting at cars. On March 10th, the local government contacted us and asked if we minded burying people here.
Russian forces would remain in the city for almost 3 more weeks. Ukraine has accused the Russian military of executing residents. U.S. President Joe Biden has called Putin a war criminal.
He is a war criminal.
Putin sent thousands of troops into Ukraine in February in what he called a, quote, special operation. Ukrainian forces have mounted stiff resistance, and the West has imposed sweeping sanctions in an effort to force Russia to withdraw its forces.
Next to a major development in the Partygate saga. The British Prime Minister and his Chancellor have paid fines for breaking COVID-19 lockdown rules during the pandemic. It is the first time that a Prime Minister has been fined for breaking the law, his own law to be precise, while in office.
Today I've received a fixed penalty notice from the Metropolitan Police relating to an event in Downing Street on the 19th of June 2020. And let me say immediately that I've paid the fine and I once again offer a full apology. And I accept in all sincerity that people had the right to expect better. And now I feel an even greater sense of obligation to deliver on the priorities of the British people, strengthening our economy, creating jobs and opportunities, levelling up across the whole of the United Kingdom.
Well, the fines for the Prime Minister, the Chancellor and the Prime Minister's wife, among others, relate to a gathering held in Downing Street in June 2020 when lockdown rules were in place. It was Boris Johnson's birthday and Rishi Sunak was in attendance on his way, he says, to a meeting. Opposition Labour leader Keir Starmer has called on Johnson and Sunak to resign.
My thoughts are with all of those who did the right thing and for whom this is a real slap in the face. They made the most unimaginable, heart-wrenching sacrifices, and many were overcome by guilt at not seeing elderly relatives, not going to funerals or weddings or even seeing the birth of their own children. But the guilty men are the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. They've dishonoured all of that sacrifice. They've dishonoured their office. This is the first time in the history of our country that a Prime Minister has been found to be in breach of the law. And then he lied repeatedly to the public about it. Britain deserves better. They have to go.
England was under various forms of lockdown through 2020 and 2021. At times, families were not allowed to meet each other. Earlier this year, more than a dozen of Boris Johnson's own MPs were publicly calling on him to resign, and others were launching a leadership challenge against him behind his back. Police have been investigating at least 12 gatherings, including some in the Downing Street garden inside number 10 and one in the Prime Minister's own residence at number 11. Days of incessant rain have triggered floods in an eastern coastal province in South Africa, bringing heavy damage to life and property. At least 59 people have been killed and dozens are missing in the port city of Durban and the surrounding areas.
Homes and roads were swept away by heavy rainfall and mudslides in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province on Tuesday, in a disaster that has killed dozens. The local government has said at least 45 people have died and warned the number could rise. Among those caught up in the floods, Durban resident John Bapiri. He managed to get his children out in time, but says he's lost everything else.
I got nowhere to go now. I got no house, I got no nothing. Yes, my family is there by my neighbors. We tried to give you the place to sleep last night. We never sleep last night. The situation is very, very bad. I don't know where we're going to go to sleep now.
The Eastern Coastal Province's Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs said disaster management teams were evacuating people in areas that had experienced mudslides and collapsed buildings and where roads had been swept away. South Africa's National Defence Force has been asked to provide aerial support where necessary. Floods around the city of East London in January killed at least 10 people and left hundreds homeless. Scientists suspect climate change is causing worsening floods and droughts along South Africa's eastern coast.
Mexican drug cartels appear to be shipping high-powered weapons to Colombia to purchase shipments of cocaine. Colombian authorities fear this trade might fuel a deadly struggle between rival traffickers for control of drug routes.
A dangerous trade, officials worry, is fueling violence in Colombia. Mexican drug cartels appear to be shipping high-powered weapons in exchange for shipments of cocaine from Colombian traffickers. A bevy of machine guns, assault rifles, and semi-automatic handguns are flowing into the South American country. A dozen Colombian law enforcement officials told Reuters, fueling the already deadly struggle between rival traffickers for control of Colombia's drug routes. General Fernando Murillo, the head of the investigative division of Colombia's national police, says paying coke suppliers with weapons rather than bulky cash helps Mexican cartels launder profits.
Every
day, conducting drug trafficking through cash payments gets more difficult, so now they are using different methods. A Mexican cartel might pay with sophisticated arms.
The potent firepower of the cartel-supplied arsenal could have serious implications for Colombia's security. Heavy arms in the hands of criminals put law enforcement at risk and could further complicate the troubled implementation of a 2016 peace deal between the government and the rebels known as FARC. Last year, 148 members of the armed forces and the national police were killed in Colombia, according to figures from the Ministry of Defense, the highest figure in 6 years, and a 57% increase from 2020.
Next, the robots are coming, and the next generation of robots are expected to transform sector after sector of the economy and all of our daily lives.
This is the latest addition to the list of kitchen robots that are gaining traction worldwide. The 1.5 meter tall robot is called Foodly and can help package noodles. Displayed at a recent Tokyo Technology exhibition, this humanoid robot comes as a solution for food manufacturers struggling with labor shortage. Developed by Japanese robot developer RT, this bot has an image recognition system to capture the food that is in front of it. The robot, with its fork-like hands, then picks up the mock noodles and places it on the blue conveyor belt that also works as a scale. The belt weighs the noodles to be packaged into the black containers. The robot can pick up to 500 grams of noodles or other food, including chopped vegetables and fried chicken. The firm is planning to price it at around $250,000. However, they don't have any concrete plans for its commercial use yet. Automation is proving to be a powerful tool in warehouses, and now this new warehouse robot is taking the game a notch higher. It can climb shelves. Designed by French company Exotec, the robot aims to make warehouses more efficient and less cumbersome. In other words, this autonomous robot helps the warehouse staff pick items from shelves up to 12 meters high, and it does the job quite effectively. When it climbs the rack, it goes at a speed of 1.5 meters per second. While there are many robots that are working in warehouses across the world, what makes this bot different is that it moves vertically. Roboticists often look to animals for inspiration, simply because they have evolved to be the best at mobility. So, mimicking animals and birds helps innovators resolve difficult engineering problems. You may have seen robots that look like cats and dogs. now there's a new quadruped robot that looks like a goat. Meet the Kawasaki Bex. It seems to have been modeled after the ibex. It's a species of wild goat that's native to parts of Eurasia and Africa. This four-legged robot can carry approximately 100 kilograms of cargo. The company also envisions it to be carrying out remote industrial site inspections in the future. Fascinating, isn't it?
Now to Hollywood's biggest legal battle, which is being broadcast live on television, and the courtroom drama between Johnny Depp and ex-wife Amber Heard will take place in front of the cameras with the world watching.
And when, like Mr. Depp, your career depends upon your image and your reputation, or whether movie producers want their films associated with you, that harm can be particularly devastating.
Lawyers for actors Johnny Depp and his ex-wife Amber Heard faced off in a Virginia court on Tuesday. In opening arguments of a defamation trial, an attorney for Depp accused Heard of fabricating domestic violence claims against the Hollywood star.
Ms. Heard is going to tell you a lot of things about him. That he abused drugs and alcohol. That he used bad and offensive language. And it's true that Mr. Depp has had real struggles with substance abuse in his life. He's not denying that. But struggling with drugs and alcohol doesn't make you an abuser.
Depp has sued Heard for $50 million, alleging she devastated his career when she wrote an opinion piece in 2018 in the Washington Post about being a survivor of domestic abuse. The article never mentioned Depp by name, but his lawyer Benjamin Chu told jurors that it was clear that Heard was referring to the film star.
By choosing to lie about her husband for her own personal benefit, Amber Heard forever changed Mr. Depp's life and reputation.
But a lawyer for Heard, J. Benjamin Rottenborn, said the actress was telling the truth about the abuse she endured and that the case is really about a narrow legal question, whether Heard's op-ed was free speech protected by the First Amendment.
Mr. Depp's team is going to make it about trying to distract you from that very simple question. Mr. Depp's team is going to try to turn this case into a soap opera. Why? I'm not really sure, because the evidence isn't pretty for Mr. Depp. It's not. You're going to see who the real Johnny Depp is. Behind the red carpets, behind the fame, behind the money, behind the pirate costumes, you're going to see who that man really is.
Heard is known for her roles in Aquaman and Justice League. She has brought her own libel claim against Depp, saying he smeared her by calling her a liar. Her counterclaim, in which she is seeking $100 million in damages, will be decided as part of the trial.
Amber's words in this article wasn't about Depp.
Argentina is hosting the world's first Women's Polo World Cup in Buenos Aires. We will leave you with those preparations for that tournament. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Ollie Barrett, back on the horse at the same time tomorrow.
Es un impacto a nivel mundial y es un mensaje también a
Giving this opportunity for women to compete at the same level that men currently compete in has a global impact and is also a message for the world.
Additional drink, Arab?